Welcome back to a year of Final Fantasy, and we're in the month of Siren, and, what? Hold on. No. We gotta change the music. I mean, this is a music video. Let's get some really good music going. Okay, cool. So, today we're gonna talk about a topic that we discussed earlier this month. We're gonna talk about the music of Final Fantasy. Really, though, we're going to be talking about a game called Final Fantasy Theatrhythm. As I've said before, Final Fantasy's music has been well regarded throughout the entire series. Chances are, if you've played any of the games with any kind of significant time, you probably have your own favorite soundtrack and favorite songs. So with such a large repertoire of music the series has, most of which Mr. Uematsu created, what can we even do with that music? Well, we can sell soundtracks, I guess, or we can go on tour, make the Black Mages and Distant Worlds tours, but why not make a game? So that's pretty much exactly what they did. Many of you are probably familiar with the rhythm game boom that happened in the last decade, and this game actually kind of topped all that off. Guitar Hero, Rock Band, and those types of games, I'm sure you've heard of them. They had a meteoric rise and then basically oversaturated the market and killed the genre within the span of, 5-6 years or something. But what we did get out of that at the very tail end is Final Fantasy Theatrhythm, a handheld portable rhythm game, not like that Guitar Hero portable rhythm game that actually is very, very good. Final Fantasy Theatrhythm debuted on February 16th in 2012, and later on in July it basically hit worldwide for all the 3DS fans, and about half a year later in December it dropped for iOS. So just to cover all our bases, I'm going to go ahead and include the sequel in this particular video as well. In 2014, it was a pseudo kind of sequel, was released known as Theatrhythm Final Fantasy Curtain Call. I don't really want to call it a sequel because it pretty much contained all the stuff that the original game had and just like a buttload more. So Curtain Call was essentially the original game, like I said, but they added extra modes and took out modes that maybe didn't work in the original game and replaced them with some really fun and interesting modes in this game. Those different modes are versus mode, and there's something called a medley mode, which is exactly what you would have expected, of putting different songs together and playing them in a row. And there's also slight alterations to how the original modes played out. Basically, it's just a better game, a better version of the original game with more game to it. There are over 220 songs in Curtain Call compared to the original 70. This isn't really including any of the DLC, which both games had. Most of the DLC from the original game is in this game, in Curtain Call. And they added new characters, new battle sequences, new field sequences. Basically, there is no reason to get the original game. So, a handheld rhythm game. So, how does that work? I mean, you have Guitar Hero and Rock Band and the little plastic guitars and everything. Well, what do you do here, Specifically, there are a few different modes at which this game has that are really reminiscent of traditional Final Fantasy games, but it's obviously based around their music. There are 3 different types of modes to play, known as battle sequences, event sequences, and field sequences. The first 2 I'm going to focus on are the battle and field sequences, which are similar. They allow you to assemble lots of iconic characters throughout all of the series, and you basically play through these songs and you go and level them up. During each of these sequences, you progress by what is essentially tapping and sliding along the touchscreen with the music. The battle and field sequences allow a actually rather ingenious melding of the traditional RPG format along with a rhythm game that I had not seen before. It's really surprising, but what about that other mode? I said there were 3 modes, right? The event mode. Well, one of these things that really thrust Final Fantasy in the limelight was Final Fantasy VII, and specifically 7 introduced cutscenes. Now, everyone knows all about the cutscenes. Final Fantasy is the series in which popularized all of these cinematic CG scenes, and this event mode takes full advantage of that. In this event mode, a cutscene from a specific game will be playing along with the music, and you're going to tap and slide your way around as it plays. One of my favorites is actually the waltz scene from Final Fantasy VIII. This mode is a little bit different from the other ones in that the tapping and sliding are actually a little more reliant on position than the other modes, and there's no real way for me to show you that that, except if you were to play the game yourself, but it does take a little bit more skill. The gameplay of the other modes of the game, like assembling your team and leveling them up, you don't really see that in this particular mode, but I mean, it's all about the cutscenes, so just enjoy the cutscenes and play along. It's really cool. And the story in the game, yeah, there actually is a little bit of a story, and it's basically the exact same story from Final Fantasy Dissidia, which I promise we will talk about that later. But what it is basically there's crystals and there's gods of cosmos and chaos, and they assemble these characters from the different worlds, and well, you know the drill. The story that presented there is just basically for context. The meat of the game is the rhythm game and playing the music and getting all the unlockables and all of that. All in all, this game is actually a really fantastic purchase, especially if you're a diehard fan of the music of the series, such as myself. The unlockables, such as new music and new characters, are there in spades, and it always keeps with a sense of progression. So you're not just playing the songs over and over, you're actually getting rewarded for getting better and playing them better. It's a great way to get familiar with the music, and maybe with the music of some of the games you haven't played. I mean, all of the games have fantastic music. I personally have both versions of the game, and I can tell you, if this sounds interesting, pick up Curtain Call if at all possible. Do not get the original game. Set your sights on Final Fantasy Theatrhythm Curtain Call. It contains pretty much everything in the original game, like I said, and probably about 2 or 3 times more content for the same price. And that's not even including DLC, which I haven't really talked about. You can get DLC from a number of other games in the series, such as the Bravely Default or Bravely series, Romancing Saga, Secret of Mana, the Saga Frontier games, Chrono Trigger, Chrono Cross, Xenogears, Legend of Mana, Live Alive, Nier, Final Fantasy Legend. Whew, that's a lot of music. There's just so much content for you to get. So let me know what you think of the games and what are your personal favorite soundtracks from the series. Next time we'll talk a little bit about the Pictologica games in this series. So if you enjoyed this and you enjoy what I'm doing here in my series on Final Fantasy, please sub and share it around. We're still a small channel, but I'm hopeful that my stuff is a little bit entertaining, and that'll allow us to grow a little bit. I put a lot of work into these videos. Thank you all for watching, and until next time, Crystal Warriors, keep on gaming.